Welcome to the Boomer Briefing Podcast, where we can help you solve a critical business issue in 20 minutes or less. I'm your host, Sandra Wiley, president at BoomerConsulting, and with me today is Emily Myrum. Emily is the Chief Talent Officer at Brady Martz Associates, and today we're going to be talking about building a strong HR department from the ground up. Emily, I'm going to give you a few minutes now to just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your firm.
Sure. Thanks, Sandra. Thanks for having me today. So I am with Brady Martz Associates. I've been with the firm for about 8 years now. Before that, I worked in healthcare and was there for about 7 years. I started as an intern and kind of worked my way up. And I kind of reached a point in my career where I was getting too specialized and just needed to get back. If somebody asked me what I enjoyed the most about HR, I couldn't really tell them because I didn't feel like I'd worked in enough areas enough to really know what I liked, and I knew what I was doing just wasn't a passion of mine. So the opportunity at Brady Martz opened up, and I didn't apply originally. I had somebody reach out to me and say, you really should apply. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure that's really, I'm qualified. And they're like, yes, you'll be perfect. So I went to Brady Martz and never looked back. And yeah, it was the best career move I've ever done. A little bit about our firm is we have 7 offices. We're located in North Dakota and northwestern Minnesota. 7 offices around the state. We are excited to be opening some offices in Sioux Falls here in South Dakota. We're merging with a firm there in October. So right now we have about 290 employees with 47 shareholders. We'll add 85 new team members come October 1st. Firm size, we're about 54 million right now. We'll be 70 million with the addition of that firm. So it's an exciting time. One of the first things I did when I started was a merger. And so I feel like over the last 8 years, I've grown in that space too. So we're excited to be working with that firm and get those new team members going. So,
wow. When I talk to firms that are in that high growth mode, I oftentimes think about human resources, being in charge of that area. And when I met you, and it was many years ago, but about 8 years ago, I feel like that's when things really started to shift for you. So when you think about your department and the high growth mode that you are in, where were you 8 years ago? I mean, when you think about your profession, your job 8 years ago, where exactly were you as a department? And then talk a little bit about how that has changed for you.
Yep. So when I started at Brady Martz, I was the only HR person. They had one other individual who had been in the role before me for, I don't know, I think a year and a half or so. So I wasn't brand new, but HR as a concept in general was new to the firm. We had a firm administrator and an office administrator kind of doing the more clerical functions, admin functions of it. But they were just like, we can't keep up with this pace. We need to have somebody who knows what they're doing. And so when I started, it was very compliance-based. And so, like I said, I left my other job because I was too specialized, and I came in and it was like, all right, anything and everything is yours, and now you got to figure this out. So I went from one extreme to another, but I had really spent the last 7 years before that getting exposure from things, working with very experienced HR professionals, and just learned a ton from them. So I had a really good foundation of at least knowing where to start and then kind of knowing where to focus. But it was really just basics, like what do I need to make sure things are covered. So it was a lot of compliance, admin, what people usually think of HR. That's where I was. And were you pretty much doing that, Emily? You, right? I mean, was it just you to start this whole kind of the ball rolling? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So Michelle before me had started it, but there was still a lot to do. So yeah, basically building a department from just kind of scratch, I guess. There was basics of it, but then I'd be like, why are we doing this? Or we should be doing this. And just really looking at every aspect of, I don't know, EEO1 compliance and I-9s. Do we have all I-9s and paperwork and all of those things just to make sure we had the base covered? I just needed to, and I came from a very structured, thousands of employees, 20 department, very structured. So this was multi-office, so they were also trying to get more centralized to things. So learning, introducing myself to people in other offices, trying to learn about the firm too. So, the thing I think that threw me off the most about public accounting is I came from very structured, hierarchical, there was a supervisor and manager, and this was, the partner model and matrix management. So it was like, I'm like, well, how do they know what to do? And it all works out, but a lot of it was just learning the industry. And I remember too, I think you called me within my first 6 months to talk about the Boomer Circle. And I was like, sign me up, because I just need some help here. And it sounds like a great opportunity to just learn about, it was a lot of learning just about the industry and how it works, and just a lot of observing and learning to just kind of understand. And that's my tendency anyway. I want to sit back and just kind of see how things work, and then figure out how to interject myself in the right places at the right time. So that's what the beginning was, just basics and learning and relationship building and getting to know people.
I love that. And I feel like that's where a lot of firms start when they don't have that organized HR department within the firm. And particularly, like you said, 8 years ago, and it is true, we are responsible for the compliance side of HR, which is very complex and very far reaching. And as you grow, if you're a 20 person firm to start, and then you're 100 later, and then oops, we're 200 or 300 because of acquisitions and because of high growth, it changes. So now talk a little bit, let's fast forward to today. So then you're right, you got to start there. You got to start with relationship building and compliance and just getting your feet wet and understanding this profession, coming out of a different profession, coming into accounting. You just have to learn all that. Now, fast forward to 8 years later, right?
Yep.
What does your department look like today? How has it changed?
Yeah. So today I have an HR associate who works with me on more of the day-to-day things. We hired a talent acquisition manager, because all of recruitment fell under me too. So the last 8 years too, I've spent time learning mostly campus recruiting and how that works, and that's ever changing. And so it was time to get somebody in here just specialized in that, just given all the complexities. So that's been a great add. I have a director of culture and community, so really focusing on culture and when you have 7 offices, you tend to each office kind of does their own thing, and that's good. But we also want to try and keep connectivity between everybody. So that is kind of what that role focuses on. And then just getting team members out in the communities too, and being that we're a community-based firm. So making sure team members have opportunities to give back to communities and stuff too. That's what that role focuses on. And soon I will have 3 more team members under me that will come from the merger in October. So I'm working on roles and things, but that it was time. It was kind of like when I needed that HR associate position, I had to have a conversation, and I was getting to the point where we got the talent acquisition. That's good. That will help, but we were going to have that conversation anyway. So the merger came in at actually perfect timing. And I was excited to hear they had HR professionals, because they will fill some more of those needs that we have going forward. So, and I'll say too, our department isn't just compliance and admin anymore. So we've been able in the last, probably 4 years, really focus on more strategic things, forward-focused things. So we moved to a flexible time off model policy of time off. So that took a lot of time to research and figure out, but just kind of get more with the times of the industry and what team members need for flexibility. We've done a lot more in engagement survey spaces. getting out into communities and
Yep.
involvement there, and then working on a continuous feedback model of performance management. So all these things I had on lists, like, gosh, there's so many things we could be doing, so many opportunities. I just had to be patient. And as time has progressed, we've been able to get to that. So what I did 8 years ago and what HR here was 8 years ago is very different than what it is today. So, which is
Yeah, it sounds like I love the word you use, strategic, because we oftentimes talk in the talent circle about our HR professionals getting a seat at the table, right? Getting the management side of our businesses to listen to more strategy about our talent. And I think a lot of things have happened in our profession that have led us there, right? The talent shortage, how we've had to rework performance management and coaching, all of that has changed. So you've gone from a department of one to a department now of how many?
Gosh, the number. So I think it'll be 8, including
Eight.
myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
8, probably more to come as you grow, right? And as you get
Yep.
larger. And I will never forget the very first talent circle you came to, and you talked about, well, this is our firm. And I think at that time you were maybe either right at 200, maybe. I'm just guessing here, but it seemed like you were close to that 200 mark. You maybe were under it by a little bit. And you said, and I'm a department of one, and you could physically hear the gasps in the room. Like people were like, oh, you're kidding. And then what happened though was you took the information you learned there. What you didn't feel sorry for yourself. You didn't try to go, oh yeah, it's terrible. You just said, I want to hear from you how you use people, what you talk to your managing partners about. And you took that knowledge and then you used it to improve your firm. And I absolutely loved the support you got from so many people sitting in that room. And nobody was, bagging on you or even your firm. They were just saying, you know what, it's time for you to kind of upskill, reskill yourself, and not just you, the firm. So when you talk, when I think about you and I think about how you have really changed the firm, what do you think got you from where you were to where you are today? And talk about what kind of skills you needed, maybe what kind of mindset you needed, just anything that you think really helped you, because there's lots of other people out there that are exactly in your place and they are going, oh, I want to do that. I want to do what she's doing. What kind of skills do they need to make sure that happens?
Sure. So again, I guess when I just look at my journey, it's you got to start with the basics. So you got to make sure you have the foundation there, and that's where you have to start. And then it is really about patience. So like I said, I had that list and I'm like, I just wish I could do X, Y, Z. But I just said, you just need to be patient. I know we're just not there yet, but we're going to get there. And so that has been a component of me just having some patience and waiting things out a little bit, and building trust so that, leaders will listen to you. How did I do some of that? I guess I hope to think it was just, again, my early days of observing and learning and understanding how they want information, what's important to the leaders. So again, so you don't say, you come with a list of 50 things like we need to be doing all these things. You got to kind of just figure out what is important to leadership. What are the small wins you can get along the way to get some of that buy-in, so they know what you can do and what it does for the firm. So for example, when I knew I was at the point where I needed some help, I couldn't keep up with the workload anymore. I was finding myself here on Saturdays more than I wanted to. So it was just the point where, I have to ask for help. And if I don't, then I'm going to be here. And if I do, the worst thing they can say is no. But what I did was I listed out. So again, I had my list there, but I really went through it and I listed out all the bucket list items I wanted to, listed all the things I was doing, and met with our managing partner and just said, look, I'm not able to keep up with things. I need some help. Here's what I'm going to shift to that role. This is what that role looks like. I had the job description ready to go.
Yep.
because again, I knew what an HR department looked like in a structured environment. So I knew what I needed. I knew what that job looked like. Um, and then here's the things I'd be able to focus on or work on. So I'm not going to say I'm just moving this and I'm just going to not do anything. I need help to get these things done, but I'm also going to then bring in some capacity for myself to be able to work on XYZ. I remember calling my cousin who was kind of an up and coming manager in a company too. And I was like, whoa, is this what you would do? And she's like, that's perfect. Yep. So her and I kind of brainstormed that. So, ask people for help too.
Yeah.
Some advice I'd gotten at some point too was find that partner who knows the value of HR and lean into them too and ask them for advice on how to move forward. And I think I did that to a certain extent too. So again, that was to get that position, but I think the same can be applied to if you think something really needs to happen in your firm. You got to build the business case and kind of show the why of what it's going to do. I guess technology too is one thing, kind of focus on technology that can help make efficiencies for you. Those were things that you kind of forget what you do along the way, but we got a new HRIS system. I talked to our performance management system. So that was an example too. I knew for 2 years, we talked about getting to the continuous feedback model of performance management, and it was a slow road to get there. I talked to the company we used for the technology for 2 years, I think. And I said, I promise I'm not stringing you along. We're just not there yet, but we're going to be there. We're just kind of getting our ducks in a row here. So I think, it's starting to do the research and kind of knowing what technology you'll need, things like that, what the people on the team that you need, and just building that business case. And then I guess too, and Sandra didn't tell me to say this. This is me on my own. That the Boomer Talent Circle really has helped me tremendously in my career, because I remember going to the first one and hearing we're working on XYZ, and I was like, oh, I am way out of my league here. Like I'm just over here like making sure we got everybody in the system, and we have a file on them. And so it helped me though so much in just knowing what firms are working on, what's normal, how do they approach things. And I've made some really good friends along the way. I know I can call them with any questions. I've had multiple calls with different people at different points for advice, like how do I approach this, or what did you do here? Especially like the FTO policy, tons of people shared policies with me, and I was able to kind of create. So not only did it help me for my department, but it helps you just kind of give you a starting point when you're by yourself and you need a little jump start, not start from scratch, things like that. So just find your resources, find your people that can help you kind of move along faster. I think too, a lot of times just saying yes to things that maybe don't sound super appealing, but again, like the pandemic was a good example too. I got to meet with or work with a lot more partners and a lot more people through that, and I think that helped kind of advance me a little bit faster than otherwise. So hopefully we don't have another pandemic, but just finding things like that, things going on in your firm where you can help and lean into it and say yes to maybe not the most glamorous things, but to show them what you can do and how you can help them. Like another example too, just with recruitment, there were things that partners were doing. And I'm like, let me help you with that. Let me take on XYZ, and then you don't need to do that. And then you got to work with them more. They got to see how you help them, save time in their day, and then just get to know them more. So I think those are my top advices. I don't know if I gave a skill, but maybe more of just tips.
I love all of that. I mean, I absolutely love all of that, because I think it's skills, it's people, it's technology, it's all of that rolled into one, which sounds super complex sometimes, but as you start it, I often hear about like the flywheel. One thing gets something started that gets something started. The one thing I'm really curious about, and I swear this is my last question because we're almost at the end of our time together, but when you think about where you started from and where you are today, one of the things you had to do was get people in the firm, management on board with, look, this is more than just compliance. This is something that's going to help our firm be able to escalate and grow and really exponentially move forward. And it's a piece that's missing in the firm today. So how did you get the buy-in? When you think about your managing partners and the other partners and managers, it's like almost everybody in the firm, you have to get the buy-in that this is an important part of our business. Yeah. What do you think were some of the keys that you could tell our audience that might help them? If they're sitting there going, yeah, but we do not have people that understand us, how do you get that?
Yep. I think one of the biggest ways that I've done that is maybe showing examples of this is what another firm is doing, kind of showing your peer groups are doing those things. Finding out, managing partner, we're part of the RSM Alliance too. So I know there were certain firms that our managing partner connected with. So I would make sure to connect with those firms for sure and lean into that. I think some of the talent shortage and things like that have kind of, I think there's just been a shift in general in our profession where in our firm anyway, that there has just been that the people side has been a higher focus because of some of the complexities that firms are facing. And so it's been a little bit easier for me, but I think it still kind of stems back to that building the trust and knowing when to lean in. And I don't know if I have a great answer, but I think the biggest thing was for me too is anytime I thought something, I would find examples of other firms doing that, similar size firms or bigger firms saying, I know we're here, but we're going to be here someday. And so we got to start putting the pieces together. And so maybe you don't jump to right where you wanted to be, but you kind of baby step it in. I don't know if I'm answering your question very well, but
I think you're answering that question great. I heard you say things like trust, right? Building the trust, do the work and do it well, and they will start to trust you. Communication, right? I heard you talk, you may not have said communication directly, but that is really what it's all about. You communicating with people and sharing with them. And I tell you what, there is nothing better. We talk about peer, feedback and peer kind of push. When people are in high school or, it still is alive and well in the profession that we are all living in. So I think all of those things are absolutely critical to what is happening today in our firms. So Emily, I so appreciate you and I so appreciate your time with us. And thank you for sharing your insights. I know that there are people in this audience today that will go, wow, that is going to be so helpful to me as I'm building my career and as I'm building my department and my space within the CPA profession. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation, we release new episodes every Tuesday morning. We talked about talent today, but we also cover topics like leadership, process, technology, and growth. What all those topics have in common is that they are crucial to your firm's success and helping you solve a critical business issue in 20 minutes or less. So if you'd like to hear more, please subscribe and listen. Thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate all of you, and we hope you have a fantastic day. Thanks again, Emily. Have a wonderful time.